This is one of those. I didn't, Steve, I was 55 or something like that, so I always had that fear system. I mean, I was coming from Maine, all that.
Ray
But nothing like
Ray.
that. It's very, I had to say the first I went down that hill with him, looks like, well, shit, what if you can take me cross country skiing on this your sport? You know?
It's a lot easier.
Yeah, this is a lot more fun. And then 5 years later, it's like, you go twice a year, it's not.
Yeah,
All here.
no, we have time.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's just, like I did, I printed and leave it all the time. Thank you.
You're right there.
I know I don't have any kids tonight, so. Yes. It's gonna go well, so we'll see the well.
Does your knees hold up through that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Hey, Michelle.
Yeah.
Good.
Interesting, you know.
I can really see you, there's a difference there.
Yeah. Shocking me as much as it's shocking you.
Sir, may I ask your name?
Yes, Ulrich Billboard.
I'm sorry.
Ulrich Billboard, ULRICH. BIL,
B.I.
BIL. BOIS.
Thank you.
I don't know why I had to spell that.
Thank you.
We just hang out with your son.
Oh,
I haven't seen him for a long time.
neither of them.
Everybody else.
I-
Tell me.
Yeah, they're right in the house.
I'll leave down and.
Or behind the shell is the golf club.
Oh, gotcha.
The other gentleman, Maude, is from Warren Road about the cell tower.
Oh. Great. I'm to put my phone down. To pocket for it.
I've looked for a while, it's in my hand.
I think I'm there. I don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
It's 5:30, call the meeting to order. I would make a motion to approve the minutes of the September 11th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
Second that.
Any discussion?
No,
All in favor?
I,
No communications or resignations. Appointments. First Selectmen's report. So in with the speed cameras, the volume has started to drop, which is good. That was the goal. We were gonna move the bi-directional cameras from Old Litchfield to Baldwin Hill, which was the third permitted location. When I reached out, because I wanted to make sure that the neighboring property owners, even though it's the town's right away, that the neighboring property owners are aware of what's gonna go on. So I reached out to the Averill family, that's the proposed locations, had a nice conversation with them, and I think their concerns are legitimate. They weren't a fan of putting it up there on the flats. Rationale being is everybody goes by there to get to their farm, their business. It's really not appropriate anywhere else on Baldwin Hill. You know, between the tree coverage, the solar power connection, whatever. So with that, I spoke to DACRA this morning and we talked about there's been a huge push from residents of Nettleton Hollow. And so they went to their thing where they could look at it online and said, yeah, that's outreach to a, neighborhood, there's the Nettleton Hollow Association, which is just about all the residents or a good portion of them. So I'd like to go in that direction. And take a look at the viability of that. I know it's been a problem, Wickham Road, East Shore Road, Flirtation Avenue. We've had outreach from residents from all of those places.
still Wickham with the stop sign and everything, that hasn't slowed people down enough?
It has, but it's still.
Well, I can
depending on
know
what
it's come
section.
down from Old Litchfield and make the turn there, people,
Yeah,
that's,
How long does the state has to review that, right?
Yeah, and what I heard from Dacker this morning was a little unsettling, was that Martin Heft, who was chairman of OPM, has retired. So anytime there's a change of personnel at the state level, yes, Linda Gomez, it just throws everything into disarray. So potentially what was looking at like a 40-day turnaround could be like a 70-day turnaround.
For who?
Well, I mean, personally, to me, that's a more dangerous road. I mean, people fly down there.
Yeah.
Baldwin Hill, I've seen up there. I know I don't go on there all the time, but it seems slower to me than certainly.
Sadly, we did have a new, high or low, depending on how you look at it, but we had a recorded speed on 109 of one day was 74 miles an hour. And the next day was 96, and it was the same driver.
How do you go that
Yes,
fast?
if you were stopped by police, you'd be in jail. I mean, it's reckless driving or whatever, you know, so anyway.
Boy,
We had a reason for wanting to be on Baldwin Hill.
yeah, oh, yeah.
And so I sort of hate to give that up in a way.
Yeah.
I do think they go too fast there. And if we're gonna do a study to look at Nettleton Hollow, should we be getting another place pre-approved for the next time we go to move it?
Yeah,
We get a couple in the pipeline?
yeah, we would do probably flirtation and then Nettleton Hollow to get approval, because it's got to go through the DOT.
Right.
Public hearing or town meeting, all of that has to take place. So we would have at least two.
And same with flirtation, that didn't, making it into a corner that you couldn't just go,
It did, it slowed
Yeah,
traffic
yeah.
coming off of 202.
yeah, but the other way is.
Coming the other way is still, yeah, still an issue.
And what was the third one you mentioned?
East Shore Road, there's a big push from the folks on, like the Walmart.
No other spot down Baldwin, or I guess either way on the hill.
That's
I know
what-
people complain about the hill being the problem on
You could, but I think,
one of the.
Where's that?
yeah,
Yeah.
come on in.
Can we maybe think about, I know you said that down the hill, people are slower because of the sign, the flashing sign.
Yeah,
Can we look to do that on either side on the flat up there instead?
yeah,
I think that does slow, it always slows people
Yeah.
down. I
we
mean,
could take a look at, I mean, people are slowing down. I mean,
But maybe-
because I travel that road 4 times a day,
Right.
Baldwin Hill, and there's a noticeable difference.
Yeah, I think so too, but I drive it a lot too.
But we can, yeah.
but
we
I
could-
think if you do that, you have the one that, we have that one down on the hill itself, but
Mhm.
you're talking about putting the speed traps more up on the flats, right?
That was the location.
Yeah, so maybe if we just move at least to put the flashing signs up there, that would be a help as well.
Both sides are attached to Avril, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's a bi-directional, so there's 2 different cameras.
Right,
They own everything around that.
they do both sides.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, it's not,
I
it's
appreciate
within the
that.
town right of way, it's within the town's right to do it. But again, we've got so many roads and heard from so many residents, so many
Who want it?
different roads.
I agree, I
Right.
want, they're,
Okay,
Uh,
so for the meantime, it'll stay on Old Litchfield then.
yes. That was it, that's all I had. Do you guys have anything under selectmen's reports?
I just had one thing to, I talked about this a while back, but we'll be sending this out to you probably beginning next week. I've been working with Mandy, and, Millie and before, Sheila to look at our ordinances. We're trying to put them online, as I mentioned, so people can be in a searchable database and find them. We have 7 of them that we were looking to revive. We talked to the folks that work on those and they're either outdated. The information in there is no longer valid, or the ordinance itself is one of them is about sending our social security information, an ordinance that requires us to send it to a state agency that no longer exists. And you send it to the federal government, not the state. So, it's a couple things like that. So I'm gonna get those to you, and there's 4 of them that we also are gonna recommend be deleted for the same type of reason. They're just outdated or irrelevant, not relevant anymore. So you'll get those. I was hoping we could go through them. The process would be that they would come here. If the board approved them, they would go to a town meeting for approval. So,
Did the planning, Jay, do they?
yeah,
I don't think so.
No,
I don't
just a
think
memo.
so,
Okay.
planning, I'm happy to share them with them for sure, but I just mind. You look at the town ordinance on. Revising or having an ordinance, approving an ordinance doesn't include planning in there,
Okay,
all right? So just an FYI.
Yeah, we're the one about, can't park your horse on Main Street
That's
from the
We're
market.
keeping that one, no, keeping that.
Dean?
Nothing for me.
Under old business, to approve an expenditure, $250,000 for the purchase of a transfer station, I'd like to table that. Got a call yesterday,
No,
yeah, from Go Environmental, they're backed up a month on doing the wells. So, I mean, I had the key on my desk, they were supposed to be out to this morning and
so why are we waiting for them to,
because DEP is requiring that we do these groundwater, well water tests. Last one's done, were in 2012.
that I
So I
understand.
contacted the Ranieri family, they're fine with it. I said it's gonna push us back about a month, but once Go Environmental gets them set and gets testing and we get back clean results, then we can go forward.
But, okay,
Yeah,
mean,
I
it
got the
makes
same
no sense
confusion
to
as
me.
Jay, because we were, in spite of the testing, we were gonna move forward at one point. but-
Yeah,
and even if they test negative, we still have to clean it up,
yeah, it doesn't,
even though the
30
Ranieri
days,
own
it
it.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah,
I wanna dot the i's and cross the t's, it's 30 days.
understood.
Well, if that's the case, Jim, I don't disagree after this length of time anyway, but just shows you the craziness with the state government and some of what they're requiring us to do for something we have to take care of anyway. Makes no sense.
To approve the discontinuance of Mount Tom Road. As we talked about before, talking to, the owners where they would be impacted by this. This would be, I believe, 55 Mount Tom Road to a portion of Old Mount Tom Road back to Romford Road. That's how many times the road changed. The only place that it's still a road is at the very beginning, just past the shack in Mount Tom. And then it becomes sort of a log trail and then it just becomes woods all the way
Right.
down to Romford.
Can you even pass on it to Romford?
No,
I didn't think
well,
so.
not without,
I mean,
you need to clear trees to.
right, I remember we looked at this 10 years ago
Yeah.
when Mark was here and couldn't drive down that road.
Now, I know there's a bunch of examples like this, like we had Ferry Bridge,
Mhm.
which was Ferry Bridge Road pre-1955, but then became, once the bridge was gone, it got washed out, it became the fields behind the primary school.
Right.
So from Barnes Road down, there was no more Ferry Bridge.
Right,
Things like
right.
that, but there, Kevin had indicated that there's several that we need to take a look at. He's gonna compile them, we'll look at the pros and the cons and see what's involved.
So do you need a motion about this one?
That was a motion.
All right, I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town beach right away. So this has been going on,
Some,
yeah, I mean, over a year. We were approached by residents of Sandstrom. Not all, but several, and I wanna say it's around 8, have these deeds that put in a right of way. Finally was able to meet a couple of months ago with Mike Alex. Had the map drawn when the town, and I wanna say it was somewhere between 02 and 04, built the new beach house. The survey map done clearly shows the right of way and labels it. And then clearly shows the compressor shed right in the middle of it.
all right,
So we've been going back and forth, we talked with the neighbors, trying to reach something that worked for everyone. Well, I met with the neighbors last Friday morning, I think. And it was very cordial, very good. And I've got to bring it to Parks and Rec, but they would simply like a kayak rack that they could store their kayaks. And that would be it. Similar, we have a rack over there that residents can sign up for. And either store their kayak or use a kayak that the town owns. This would be dedicated to those folks who have the right of way.
would it be in the right away then?
No,
Would it
this
be
the
on-
right of way has this compressor
Well, I
built in.
didn't think the
was-
compressor covered.
It would
the
be,
whole
it would
thing,
be behind that. Or behind the beach house is another, for lack of a better word, a lawn about the size of this room. Where we have the town's kayak rack.
So we
but
put
this-
theirs.
Yeah,
And that's,
Is it in lieu of moving the compressor and?
yeah,
Clearing that right
there'd be
away?
none of that involved.
Okay, do we have? In other words, will they sign off on something that they're,
They would,
this would be the,
it's a different story altogether to try and change the deed that goes back to
Right.
1936. I don't know how that works,
right,
but we're in no worse position than we were in. In other words, much like the transfer station, for whatever reason, the town put it right in the middle of that right of way, we'd have to bear the expense of moving it.
Agree.
So
Right, right.
If this
But
makes
they've
them
agreed
happy,
that-
yeah, they said that's all they want.
Wow, that's a
And
far
they would
cry
have to-
from where we started.
Yeah, they'd have to leave them there for the season, because obviously they need to be inspected, they can't, and they understand that, so.
Yep.
Anyway, any concerns with moving forward?
Well, I would
I think,
second it.
yeah, I'm just same concern Dean was, what happens next year or the year after. I mean,
Yeah.
if we can get something that's somehow in writing that
Mhm.
that can be attached, I mean, to the deed or something that would say that they've agreed to this, because otherwise, who knows, again. They come back again, we have to, just, not that they're putting a rack up is that big a deal, I'm not suggesting that, but. Okay,
So I'll go back to Parks and Rec. With that. New business to set the agenda for the October annual town meeting. At that meeting,
October,
yeah,
Do we need to vote on that right away? Is that did you make a motion or is that just an idea that we will?
well, I want to talk to Parks and Rec about it and make sure, and then I'll come back and when I spoke with the neighbors, they all realize it's gonna be next season. Right. For all intents and
okay,
purposes.
all right.
Town of Washington Annual Town Meeting, the voters and electors of the town of Washington are hereby warned that the annual town meeting will be held on Monday, October 6th, 2025 at 7:30 PM at Bryan Memorial Town Hall, Washington Depot, Connecticut, to consider and act upon the following: one, to set the dates for the annual town budget hearing and annual town budget meeting in May 2026, dated at Washington, Connecticut, this 25th day of September. James L. Britton, J. Hubblebank, Dean Sargent, Board of Selectmen. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
All right, it just is interesting since we do it. Is it, I don't, never saw it in an ordinance that says it has to be on the first Monday and then the date. Is
has to
there?
be the
even the
first
time?
Monday and
Yeah.
at 7:30.
So,
7:30.
but we still have to set this as, we still have to go through this process.
Correct, even though it's already in an order, yeah.
In an ordinance.
It's a little
Okay,
redundant.
just curious.
Set the date for November special town meeting. Warning Town of Washington special town meeting. The voters and electors of the town of Washington are hereby warned that a special town meeting will be held on. Are we doing just the date, or are we doing?
Well, right now, it's just a discontinuance
Right. got it.
and or this.
I
I gotta figure that out.
out. The voters and electors of the town of Washington are hereby warned that a special town meeting will be held on Thursday, November 6th, 2025 at 6 PM at Bryan Memorial Town Hall, Washington Depot, Connecticut, to consider and act upon the following: to approve the discontinuance of Mount Tom Road from 55 Mount Tom Road to 67 Upper Mount Tom Road. And two, to approve the discontinuance of Upper Mount Tom Road from 67 Upper Mount Tom Road to 230 Romford Road, dated at Washington, Connecticut, this 25th day of September 2025. James L. Britton, J. Hubblebank, Dean Sargent, Board of Selectmen.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
All right, one,
Go ahead, Jay.
can we add something to that before the, what is it, 10 days that it really has to be posted? I could add. So what I'm getting at is if the landfill issue resolves itself before then, will we be able to put it on the agenda for that meeting?
As long as we're
it's
within the
10-day window or something like that,
Yeah.
is that what it is?
whatever the
Mary Ann?
guidelines
Yeah,
are.
we pushed it out for the Mount Tom Road thing, because gives the residents 30 days.
Sure,
But then, yes, we do have time to add some.
great, okay, good. If that gets resolved, that would be nice to do both of them at the same time.
Last item of new business discussion of golf course road, so. Paul, what was this, about a year ago, maybe a year and a half, might have been before your tenure. Paul was the director at the Washington Club.
Okay,
Met several times with he and Mike Dora to discuss this. If you recall, I want to say it was maybe even 2 years ago, for one winter, our highway department plowed up there.
4 years ago,
Was it that long?
my first day here.
Okay. And it's in pretty bad shape. I mean, Kevin came down, he said, you need to take a ride up there. And this was January, February. I've never seen anything like it. It was just, it's a mess.
Yep.
This whole thing was created decades ago on the deeds where it basically says that the Washington Club has to maintain, and now over the years, now we've got, I believe it's 14 homes on golf course, residents of town. So the Washington Club has come to the town asking if the town would consider taking it over. Now, again, that goes to Board of Selectmen, obviously lengthy discussions with Public Works. Kevin's thing is, you can't even consider it unless it's built to standards, drainage, et cetera. And it's not a slight, Paul, in any means. I think I talked to you and Mike about this. A country club can be a tough thing to develop empathy or sympathy for in terms of, you've got this road, but we do have 12 homes on this road now.
Right. These
So-
are not the resident, not the club.
Yeah, now in going forward, the club doing their due diligence went and had a contractor come out and give them a price of what it would cost to get that road up to snuff. And that would be $138,000. Now, when we spoke, and I said to Paul and Mike, I said, I'll bring this to the Board of Selectmen, see what they say. They wanted to know if there's any possibility of any cost sharing in this. Now, again, I'll hear what you guys have to say. My thing was, we do have the 12 homes on there. Would we have to eat into Kevin's budget? No, because the monies for the citations goes to roads, infrastructure and safety improvements. Again, it's gotta go to town meeting, it's all that, but. And you guys don't have to comment on it tonight if you want to just think about it and we put it on the agenda, over the next give it some thought over the next 2 weeks. And we can discuss it in the old business 2 weeks.
Okay,
Okay.
I appreciate
Cause
that.
it's not fair to
I have a lot of,
dump that.
I've thought about it for a long time, and I'm curious what people think, is I'm torn. Cause I do think we have some responsibility to those homeowners.
Mhm.
But also to other taxpayers.
Mhm.
You're taking on something with their tax dollars that we don't have to. So I'm torn between, you are spending people's money to do something that's the right thing for those 14 or 16
Yeah.
families. It's a bit of a conundrum. I don't know what the right thing there is,
I mean, if it's the only right to begin with, we wouldn't be here.
Right,
That's
so
it.
I'm torn,
Yeah,
so I.
That's
Back in subdivision days, it should have been done correctly then.
that's
Right.
right, that's
Right.
right.
Town was subdivided.
And then
Didn't
whoever
happen.
dealt with it then would have paid, would have been covered, but,
I mean, my
and then the
temptation-
town would have taken it over.
Taxation is, and that 138 seems really cheap to me.
Yeah, that
That's
is.
For
not-
drainage,
Yeah, that's a short.
Well, the
That's not,
club's doing a lot of the work. That's really them to come in. Reclaim, grade and pave and replace the 2 pipes that go underneath the road. All the drainage on the side is all gonna be done by the club with our staff. And the driveway ones are in there too.
then obviously that would have to be Kevin sign off after completion, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So something to think about over the next couple of weeks.
yeah,
It is a,
We can dis-
I agree.
we can discuss it. Visitors, wanted to welcome Warren Road residents. So I took I've been over there a few times, but I went back over today. That couldn't be closer to Warren without actually being in Warren. I mean, that it's, and then I looked at, the topography. Started to go through the application to the siting council. I had a phone call tomorrow with the attorney representing the tower company, Kenneth Baldwin, and then a meeting with our emergency management director and our fire chief Monday morning. A couple of the questions I have is, I believe the cell company withdrew this 15 years ago. I don't believe the siting council ever acted on it. Is that your understanding as well?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. The other thing I discovered in doing a little research on this is do you folks have a copy of this? Did they?
An abbreviated copy.
Okay.
Not that elaborate.
If you ever have insomnia, they had 27 prospective sites. And that in and of itself is not unusual, but what struck me as unusual was every site that's mentioned is given a reason as to why, either negotiations for the lease, the engineers deemed it was not proper. They all had a reason as to why those 26 other sites were not chosen, save one. And that's in Warren, and all it says is was not selected. Now, I would say at least half of the people, there were reasons of property owner expressed interest, but, or property owner had no interest in leasing land for a cell tower, right? Montessori had 3 sites that they expressed interest in, and I think I said to you folks a couple of weeks ago, has anyone spoken? Because last 15 years ago, Montessori, I thought, was integral in getting this thing maybe withdrawn. And they're in here as having shown interest in 3 different sites, and for a variety of reasons, it couldn't. It wasn't gonna take place, so I think that's a box we have to check. What these folks are asking is, and they have a petition that they submitted to us 2 weeks ago, is can the town become interveners? Or to put testimony, so again, you know, wanna talk to planning, Wayne is all things P O C D.
I would think that planning is the place to go to begin with, because that's,
It is, but the thing to find out, and one of the things, when I was on zoning 20 years ago, is these things can offer extremely limited coverage. In other words, what you think may cover a certain corridor, it doesn't really do a whole
well,
lot.
it's a matter of how much they turn the power on and direct it.
Yeah, and it's 140 foot, you know, and they have all the.
Yeah.
The different, the views and the photographs, but it's a 140 foot facility. There was a time, and I've got to confirm this, where the siting council would not make a decision based on potential health issues. My question is, has enough time gone by now that they have the data to say yay or nay, there is potential health issues?
Sure.
For these things, so we still have a lot more information to gather, but again, I'll have a lot more Monday after these 2 meetings with the attorney and our emergency services people. Did you folks have any questions that we?
You know, I'll add, so what we put together and provided last week was a petition of the neighbors, abutting neighbors 2 weeks ago. Opposing.
Yeah.
The cell tower. And we talked over the phone this morning of what next steps. We could take as a neighborhood, as a community.
Yeah.
And potentially asking for the town to be an intervener on our behalf. So I mean, that's something that, you know, we have thought about and discussed.
Yeah.
And I think it probably makes sense. To your point about, yes, I mean, health, there's probably more data to support whether there are health implications, but there's a list of other concerns that we have. Aesthetically, we chose to live in an area in a community where we are today because of its beauty and its rolling hills and its preserves. You have Macrocostas, you have Shippog Association, you have a few others up on 340, the Matatop Preserve up the road towards Warren, which is a few hundred yards. So it's all about the aesthetics as well, and potentially the environmental impacts on, you know, wildlife. There's a list of, you know, that we can collaborate on and discuss amongst ourselves as to formulate an argument or opposition to the cell tower. Wetlands, I did reach out to the Conservation Commission. That's kind of quieted down, but I'm gonna follow up.
Okay.
I have tried to get in touch with the head of school at the Washington Montessori. Carrie Dorton, I believe, is the head of school. I'll put a couple of calls, I haven't really heard back. So I don't really have the temperature gauge of how the school feels about this.
But I think over the course of the next couple of weeks, I think at the next selectmen's meeting, we need to be prepared to have the answer. Yes, we will, or no, we won't. In other words, because the council is, December is their meeting. And we want to be able, you know, if we're going to submit testimony, whatever role we're going to play in it, I think we need to know sooner rather than later.
Sure.
So if there's questions that we have for town council or, you know, the attorney tomorrow, I've got quite a few questions for him, actually.
And I'd be curious, for me, there's 2, which is whether we intervene or not. or whether we can intervene or not, correct? There's sort of two different things.
Off the top of my head, I believe we can. I think the
Right.
town has
I
done
don't think
that.
there's anything that prevents the town from intervening.
It would have, and then I would know what that mechanism, I
Sure.
don't know what that mechanism is, if we're going through planning or where we're doing that, and then, yeah, you're right, why, we should be able to, obviously, if the town doesn't want to do something, allow to.
And I would imagine that the cell tower, the cell company that's in Tower LLC that's proposed this location. You know, I would imagine that they, during the evidentiary meeting on December 4th, has to kind of prove to the public why they need this.
Absolutely. There's a dedicated,
And who really benefits, and is it a, you know, does it make sense? Does it cover enough people, and what's the objective here?
Right.
And I mean, I have a question about, like, even, for example, the tower here in the town garage.
Mhm.
That went up maybe a few years after.
very shortly after.
Right, maybe
Yeah.
a year or two after that,
Mhm.
like, has that been fully utilized? Like with the,
There, like, who is leasing the tower to whom we?
I believe AT&T and
T-Mobile.
T-Mobile is on there. They just have an application to expand the footprint up there from what they have, so they can add more technology to it. Unfortunately, we can't, there's just nowhere to go. I mean, it's what they have is what they have. But
Well, I remember when we went through that tower, that they eventually came, they did a presentation here. Was that after the site, they presented to the siting council, do you remember? I mean, my thought was, I don't know enough about this to know, I'm not sure, I don't know the land exactly where it's going and what homes and all that, you know, I haven't been involved in it so far, so that, I'd have to understand that before I can make a decision about it, but the issue of who does it serve and where it's, you know, where it's gonna serve, it seems to me, would they come here and do a presentation to us, you know, before they go to the siting council to let residents to
yeah,
do their presentation to us? And anybody who wants to come, and then, you know, hopefly a question and answer, and then a follow-up or something, so people.
part of it, and then we'd have to
Yeah,
realize it, we're sort of talking to the car salesman about buying a car.
I
so
understand,
take
but,
it with a
you
grain
know,
of
but
salt.
we're all smart enough to know when they're, you know,
Yeah, but there's
bullshitting us
questions
and
that can
when.
be asked. In
when
other words, how many additional people is this gonna serve?
Yeah,
Is it gonna be mobile traffic? Is it gonna be home-based?
right,
you know, all
yeah,
those
right,
things.
so,
I thought they had to, and they have to float balloons and things like that.
They've got the photos of the balloon test, and now the siting councils allows them, I'm guessing it's technology to superimpose an actual tower, sort of Photoshop one in. But anyway, so I'll speak to the attorney in the morning and request a public informational hearing.
yeah.
They can come out here and give us all information. Your group can come with questions. We'll obviously have
Yeah.
questions.
And maybe, you know, even if they won't answer the question, at least the questions will give us info as to whether, for me at least, would help me to decide whether I thought the town should intervene or not.
I'll see if we can get somebody from the siting council.
Oh, wow, that'll.
I don't know if we will, but
Yeah, I mean, worth a try. And in the meantime, I will come and look at your maps and all, so I know where we're talking.
yeah, they're. It's quite a bit.
Obviously not, we can, you know.
Any other questions, folks?
well, there are other towers that, you know. Top of Mount Tom in that area, you have that tower up on Sparrow. So there are there are existing infrastructure
Right.
that can be part of our argument as far as, or again, how we. Collaborate here and address the opposition is, can they extend that tower and other technology? Right, you can put small receivers on existing utility poles. You don't need this ugly looking 140 to 150 foot monopole that is directly gonna be in every house's line of sight, except for the current owner, because he sits right underneath and will not even see this house. Meanwhile, every abutting neighbor.
Right. No, listen, those are all questions that are valid, and they're good for the. It's totally appropriate for the authorities that can speak to this. I agree with you.
Yeah.
100%.
And this is a variety.
What's the next step?
Well, like I said, I will have the
You have your
conversation
phone call tomorrow with
with the attorney, meet with our emergency services on Monday.
Okay.
Um,
What about
talk to
planning
the,
and zoning, like, is that,
this is the Board of Selectmen. I'm gonna talk to the attorney to see if we can have the representatives of the company come out and do a public informational meeting for the town.
okay?
And then everybody can come with their questions and concerns and see where we go from there. Okay,
Sounds like a good next step.
Jim,
hi Linda.
I have. As far as the cell tower goes, would it be worthwhile to look back at what we did? You know, the process that we used last time for the one that got turned down, they got all that information.
Was that the church one? The
That's
Preston?
the one on Rabbit Hill that was, there was a lot of, they went, I think they went kind of far, they didn't put it up, I'm just
I
saying.
thought it was the same property, no?
It was the same property.
Well,
Yeah,
17.
Was there another one, rather than?
I thought there was one, or maybe they were looking at that.
Yeah, I believe this is an identical property that they withdrew. And I don't know why, but the company withdrew, and I don't know if it's from,
Was it the one long time?
about 15 years. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure
So
they,
we still had stuff under the dump.
Yeah.
Had it, you can look back and see what.
Yep.
We did there. I also have a question about, the transfer station and when would the informative meeting be held for that before the purchase of that, you know, the town?
At the town meeting.
And then you're gonna vote right then?
That's what we've done for 250 years, Linda.
Well, I remember town meetings before that we could ask questions and put in stuff like that, you know. Do the vote after, you know, not right after, but at least have maybe 2 weeks before we vote. That's a big commitment for the town people. Maybe not everybody can be at that meeting.
Yeah, we could, I'm happy to do an information, sure, sure. John, you had your hand up, you don't anymore.
Jim,
Go ahead,
I would
John.
want to say something, though. I took it down because Linda asked a similar question, but, so yeah, I would recommend an informational meeting so the public can be informed about what's going on. Secondly, perhaps the vote should occur at a referendum, possibly linked with the November ballot. And thirdly, where is the money going to come from? It's not in the budget for this year. I heard it might come from the reserve fund, but can you specify where the dollars would come from?
Sure, the ask from the Board of Finance would be from the fund balance, John. Anybody else?
Is it public comment?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Yep. Good evening, Randy Carrera. I'm here to address the transfer station matter. I had an opportunity to go through the leases going back to the 70s. And I know there's been some statements made, well, we're liable anywhere, we're liable anywhere, but what we've got. So most of the leases were 5 to 10 years or 5 years real options going back to the 90s. In fact, I got a copy, I'll leave for you guys to look at, and I checked it. The 1987 lease included, specifically stated that it was used for septic disposal amongst other dumps. So you've got this tied in that this is what's going on. That doesn't necessarily translate into the town being liable for everything that's dumped there. But I got some suggestions, before we finish. The radical change we had in the leases was signed, dated, for the term 2005,
Okay.
but it was signed in February of 2025. Missing some words. And it was a lease that's in effect right now. It wasn't signed until February, and it covers from January through December of 2025 and was terminated earlier.
Yes.
That lease is significantly different than all the other leases. I'll lay out some of this stuff. No lease prior to 1995 required the town to indemnify the owner for environmental concerns, testing, attorney's fees, and other expenses associated with those concerns. Post-termination remedies prior to that, the other leases dealt with covering or disposing of any waste in accordance with state and local health codes and restoration to prior conditions. Not all these other obligations. In that 1-year lease, the town assumed any and all environmental monitoring and or remediation required. Section 32 of the lease is a full page of obligations, including a strict indemnification of hold harmless clause, including all costs and attorney's fees arising out of the failure. The other thing in play here, I mean, at the end, what I'm gonna suggest is you guys get an attorney's opinion letter on a couple issues. You've got some real risk management here, and I'll give you some idea how bad that can get. I was involved with a company, we had purchased a 60,000 square foot warehouse up in Windsor. And it was a former steel mill. It had what we thought was just minor issues. We had the closing, they changed the regs 10 years after the closing. And it ended up involving a significant dollar amount of testing in addition to what was done 30 years later. This was purchased in the 80s and they sold it, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. So you got to be real careful. You're buying into something that's unknown. How the Board of Finance can approve something like that, I have no idea. One of the other things in play is the Transfer Act expires in March of 2026. So you've got a transfer obligation to go through that process. After March, it changes. And one of the things you should really do is get an opinion letter on what, if you're gonna do this, and I think it's, you're open, you don't know what you're buying a pig in a poke. What you wanna look at is the two different procedures. Is it more advantageous for the town, if it's gonna do it, to wait till after March? Or is it more advantageous to go under the old rules? So you may wanna inquire your counsel and get something in writing on opinion. I think you gotta, I think I mentioned, education of the public, because the public's really blind to whatever you guys are doing, other than what they hear comments. They're looking, they were trying to get authorization in 2024 for the money allocation to buy the transfer station. You're buying a liability. If this was a private sector, you'd be talking about how much the seller is going to pay you for buying that obligation. You're buying an unknown obligation for what you may think is not a lot of money, but in the private sector, it goes the other way. So you gotta be, and it's not your money.
It is my money, Randy. I pay for it just like everybody else does.
You as a board have a fiduciary obligation to the citizen.
Of course. Of course.
Okay. I think that townspeople need all the facts regarding the risks involved, as well as the Board of Finance. I suggest that any town meeting be limited, the initial town meeting be limited to information and answering questions. Any vote either by referendum or town meeting be sufficiently spaced to allow actual discussion and input from the citizens. So it isn't, this is going to happen in 2 weeks. That the town consider alternative sites to a transfer station with zero risk of environmental concerns. A transfer station is not the same risk as a dump. And I understand the town owns some property of it's not far off of 202. I'm blanking on the name. So there's other sites available. I think it's worth investigating. And you need a risk analysis in the sense to the point where will the attorney give you an opinion letter on a risk analysis with the old act, with the new act, and what the anticipated results are gonna be. I got offered, they wanted, when I had an office in Bridgewater, and the bank wanted to sell it to me for some stupid amount of money. And it took me about 13 seconds on a spreadsheet to figure out that I told them, I said, you could give it to me for nothing. And it isn't worth me buying for nothing, because between the taxes, maintenance, what had to be done with the building was built in the 70s. It was a crazy future. So that's what the town you got to think in terms of, would you do this? Would you put your house up to buy that transfer station as it is? So anyway, good luck.
Thank you, Randy. Anybody else?
Oh, where's the?
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone online? Ray, you might. Not sure if you had it, you're muted, I think.
I think I'm
There you go.
okay. Can we go back a little bit to where you were on the town regulations? I look for them on the town ordinances. I look for them on the website.
They're-
They're putting them on Monday, I believe.
No, they're not there yet, Ray. What we're
I
trying to.
know. I
Yeah.
know. My question is, are we behind in that? Do most towns have them readily available already?
Probably.
I'm not sure, Ray. I'm not sure, but I know we have not looked into doing that until the last year or two when we started looking at this, and it morphed into a bigger project because we found, we did not at the time have one place where all the ordinances that we passed were kept. We had to go through all of the old town meetings to find them and date them. We found the ones that we talked about that needed revisions. So we are behind on getting those, in my mind anyway. You should have had them up in line a long time ago, but we're working towards that.
So it was pointless for me to even think about calling Mary Ann and asking her advice on how I could come down and read whatever book.
Oh,
Ordinance.
No, that's.
In the old day, we did have an
Yeah, we do.
ordinance book,
Yeah.
and we still do, Ray. So yes, you could have come down or called and I would have copied it for
Right.
you, but yes, it was available, it just wasn't online.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But
Yeah.
when the time comes to share this
Oh, yeah.
with town members, can we see it online as a document where
Yes.
you highlight those sections which you want to change?
Well, that's the next step, Ray. That we will be doing that first at a Board of Selectmen meeting, and then there will be a town meeting where we will go over all the changes of those 5 or 6 that we want to change.
But I think to Ray's point, Ray, I think if I hear you correctly, and I would agree, we're gonna have it on the website prior to the town meeting, so residents.
Yeah, and we'll
see
have,
what the
right.
proposed changes are.
and
Is that
we'll
correct,
have
Ray?
hard copies available here too, for those people who would like to see them in a hard copy.
But you could somehow outline on the form that you first put on, the current form, you
Yeah.
could somehow use a highlighter or type in, as they do on contracts when people make changes before they sign off on them. So we could get an idea what you guys have identified and what wording you might be suggesting for us to look at.
Right, that's exactly what we're doing. It'll be if it's we will either have it as a cross out with the revised language that we want to put in there, or there'll be a copy of here's the original and here's the revisions we want to make underneath it. Just depends on how lengthy the document is and how many changes we want to make. Some of them are just a couple of word changes to bring it up to date because of some of the changes that have
Yeah,
happened.
and I think
So,
that can reflect that as well, so.
yeah,
if
it
you
will
do
show that.
Proposals in red ink.
Oh,
and
that's exactly
original
what,
in black,
Right,
if it's.
okay.
Yeah.
that's exactly what I have. So,
Could I ask you to back up to talk a little bit about the traffic videos and the traffic?
Sure.
How much money has come into the town as our share of the fines that have been produced?
Come in or been issued, in other words, like, how many people have paid, Ray?
How many dollars have come in?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'd have to ask Linda Gomez how many was coming in. I mean, I'm happy to give you that, Ray, if you can think to give me a call in the morning, and I'll check with Linda Gomez.
Where are the dollars now?
They have an account that the treasurer keeps. So the town established, when we did this ordinance, the town had to establish a fund to deposit these monies.
With what purpose in mind?
Well, you've got to follow state statute, so it's got to be whatever the state statute spells out about infrastructure. However, the state says you can spend this revenue is how we have to spend it.
So it's sitting there for now,
Correct.
earning a little bit of interest, I trust.
Again, I can check with the treasurer to see specifically what account it's in, Ray, but I wouldn't want to quote you a wrong number.
Okay. I'd like to see the numbers, eventually. I don't need to call you tomorrow or Monday. I'll just, figure out how to ask Linda, I guess, when I see her. Is that adequate?
Yeah, she'd be able to tell you much quicker than me, right?
Sure. Okay, well, she's much quicker than all of us anyways. Good for her. So, okay, well, thanks for the input, guys.
Thank you, Ray. Linda?
So, those tickets that have been put out.
Mhm.
How many, what's the percentage that has been collected? Have you had?
That's the
people that-
question you just asked. Yes, the same question.
Right, you see, he's saying dollar amount, I'm saying,
It's the same thing, right? At that.
well, I mean, do people say I'm not paying? Have you had a lot of people that just?
No.
They've had,
Yeah,
okay,
Most of
because there's no really.
Right.
Recourse if they don't pay, right?
the only recourse is after 90 days, the law allows you to send them the collections, so it impacts the credit.
And so that costs us money then to send them to collection, right?
No, that's inclusive in the fee that the third party, yeah.
And I was also curious about, over the months or whatever that's, of the meetings and we've had different things. I don't know, how far is the ambulance building right now? How close are they to being done?
Right now, they're working on what they call the punch list. So after all the contractual obligations have been met, the architect goes back, he walks through the entire building and he says, okay, here's a hinge, here's a plug outlet, here's a light. He goes through this punch list and says, these are the things you have to do. Right now, Holly Construction says they're on track to be finished by the second week in October.
Oh, so soon.
Yeah.
So, and then what is the, as you look out foresight of that, what is the amount of money that we'll have in our expenses paid for whatever is involved in that meeting, insurance, electricity, whatever?
But yeah, Linda's got all those, we've got all the utilities, all the insurance costs for PERMA, she's got all of that, Linda.
So we have a list of how much that would be.
Yep.
And then I was curious too, because you said there's a purchase coming for a dump truck. Has that money already been in the budget for that?
Mhm.
Okay, and then the school upgrades, I've got a thing, survey going around about having all that. Is there a dollar amount on that yet?
I don't think so, that's in its infancy. I don't even think there's a direction as
Well,
to
I
how they
just
wanna
thought
go.
that was a push to do that because it's a survey put up.
Yeah, you have to remember, the district is responsible currently for the district is responsible for the proposals.
For, I mean, I think they're still at, do we renovate, do we do nothing, do we consolidate, all that, I think is still on the table.
Well, where I'm trying to go with this is it seems like there's quite a few big items here that's gonna hit us. And, along with the plat park over there, you were talking about doing stuff over there. I'm trying to see what the dollar amount is on each of these things, so we can see where it's gonna set with us. I mean,
Sure.
are we gonna go from a mill rate of 10 something to 30 something with all this stuff that's coming? That's gonna be a stretch, but I'm saying, I don't think town people are gonna want their
No, but I think,
taxes going up quite too much.
no, but we've managed. For the last, and I don't know how far back into Mark's tenure, there's been no mill rate increase.
Right, but are you spending the surplus that we have?
Oh, yeah, and every year we put back more, so when we're doing infrastructure, we're doing bridges, we're doing roads, we're purchasing a fire apparatus, we go into the fund balance. The first year, I think we used just pick a number, 1.1 million of the fund balance. At the end of the fiscal year, after everything was reconciled and audited, 900,000 went back in.
But I'm worried about the stuff that we don't have grants or whatever money coming back on.
Yeah, fire apparatus, we had no grants on those.
Well, but that's already been pushed in the.
It's ongoing, it's every year.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, I'm curious on how much of the fund balance we can take it down to, because we're up, over
5.5 months,
5.5.
I think, and the Board of Finance had stated very clearly. Their comfort level, the state of Connecticut has had their recommendation, which nobody agrees with, I don't think, so. I know the 5.5 is well over what the board.
Well,
Yeah, it's 3 months is what the Board of Finance is asked.
State is like
State is
half.
two.
It's-
No, the state is 1.75, I think,
Yeah.
and the
Right.
auditor says 2.
Right, so you just told me 5.5 million, right?
No, I think it's,
Not per time.
no, I believe, again, these are questions for Linda Gomez, or if you give me a little heads
Okay.
up. But I think it's 5.5 months, they go by, Linda, which there's a dollar amount connected to for sure.
But that's what we're coming to, but that's not what we have.
No,
No,
and we're trying to.
no, I think the state,
Than two,
that's what I think the state recommends,
so we're way over.
right?
Mhm.
So does that mean we can do something with lowering our mill rate?
Well, we can either lower the mill rate, or we end up looking at things like fire apparatus that go from 600,000 to 1.2 million in a year. We say, well, we're gonna need that money, so we don't raise taxes. So yeah, we could do either or. I mean, our position has always been, if you don't get the capital projects done, you need to lower the mill rate. That can't grow and grow, and all of a sudden you have 10 months of surplus in a fund balance. None of us,
But we calculate that out each year on the budget, how much those capital items are gonna cost, and we put that in the budget.
and then, correct, and then when Linda says, okay, you need to go, in order to keep the mill rate flat, here's what it has to come out of the fund balance, whatever the number is. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, I remember. But we don't usually take that out. I thought it was budgeted in always.
Yeah,
What-
it is budget.
Yeah,
What
That's
was
how we do the
but
budget.
I'm just meant in the taxes coming in, not in the fund balance, not spending the fund balance.
Well,
That's how it got.
Our goal is to spend it, but we get revenue we don't anticipate is what's happened over the years, especially from the schools turning back revenue from the tuition they collected, because they conservatively budget the tuition that they expect. And so whatever they get in extra comes back to the three towns, and that's built up our fund balance quite a bit. And some other grants that we weren't aware of, when through the COVID period, time as well. But we do the budget every year. People bring us projects that, like, whether it's the plat, and we go through them, and if we can afford them and keep the mill rate down and they're good projects, we do them. If we can't, we tell them, sorry, we'll have to wait till next year or look for some other funding. And that's how we've done it for years, and we've been able to maintain the mill rate since I've been on the board. It hasn't gone up at all. So.
Well, as far as the primary school goes, so that's nothing really in.
I don't believe
at
that's,
this point.
I
Well,
don't think it's,
survey went out, I thought it was something.
that wasn't the selectmen didn't put that out.
It's the district. The district's responsible, but they're trying to find ways, as you know, for the last 25 years to keep 40 years.
They're
We had
trying to get
referendums back in the 90s to try to rebuild the primary schools, and it's on the district to do that. They might come to the towns and say, would you do your own building?
They're trying to
that's a whole
understand where the
discussion for
community
us,
wants to
you know.
go. I don't think,
Yeah,
it's a very moving target.
Yeah, but we're doing our own buildings, we're in the region, don't.
that's the point. Well, we own that building though, Linda, as you know,
We own it, yeah, but it's leased to the school, so we have.
$1 a year.
Right, but
Right,
that whole thing is in its infancy. I don't think they're trying to find, and I don't know if this is even possible, they're trying to find a consensus of a direction to propose to the three communities.
Right.
Is it do nothing? Is it fix the new? Is it consolidate? Why
I've
not?
been there before, no,
3 times at least.
wasted a lot of money
Plenty
doing
of
that.
times, yeah,
Well,
yeah, there's no doubt about
wasting
it.
a lot of money with 3 primary schools in my mind.
Yes, sir.
I did wanted to tell you the reason why I came here before this ends. I do support my friends here, also neighbors almost. My son was 15 years ago at Montessori School, and I was part of the group that was against the tower on that property. I learned so much back then about the health side, which I do believe today. I know it might not be a big thing that they would care of it or not. But there are several preserves around, including right behind the river, you have the Leachfield Land Trust. And you have the Steel Park Association also that bought some land that got closer to this area.
Sure.
So this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
And I want to learn more about what's happening. In my opinion, it should be covered there.
And, and there's things like, to your point, the land trust, Weontanog is up there. There's several Litchfields that are close up there, Mount Tom State Park.
They're all surrounded by.
Mhm. But I find it ironic that the one site in Warren just said, all it said was not chosen. That's it.
So there was another fact, so we did read some of the stuff about like. people that were approached, or I don't know how that works, but they were, I think they were actually 45. Something like that, but anyway. So you're saying there was one in Warren, somewhere else? That they just
And that's why it stood out.
go forward?
Yeah, it had the engineers, there was no lease breakdown of discussions, it just said was not selected. It stood out from all the others that had and it did state that the owner actively was interested in leasing to the cell company. So I just found that interesting, and I'm gonna ask the attorney what he
I
knows about.
suppose some of these either they didn't agree on financial terms or
And
whatever,
they would list that, they would, yeah, they couldn't come to terms on that,
or
or,
maybe the location was.
right, the engineers deemed it wasn't.
I just want to just confirm that we're on record asking the town
To intervene,
to intervene.
correct, absolutely. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Will we adjourn?
Executive
Second.
session.
No. Sorry, I should have looked closer. All in favor?
Hi.
Sorry, man.
We have to go.
No executive session.
No, I.
No.
Put it on there, but.
And she gives me, she has me review it. It's just okay.
Yeah. Good. Trying to figure out what it's about, no, I don't have to.
Alrighty. Have fun.